Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back from the wonderful lunch. I'm sorry can't speak Portuguese, but I presume your Finnish is not that fluent either. So let's make a compromise. It's a tough job after so many heavyweight presentations and after the nice lunch. And but I hope that my perspective will be yet another one to this very rich discussion and the very complex topic of this seminar. Thank you very much, first of all, for having invited me here and taken such good care. I've learned from the politicians that I always sort of change the topic and start talking about something else. So when preparing for today, I realized that I wanted to turn the question around and ask, what are the risks if the built environment does not support sustainable development? And these are the viewpoints that I will go through. So what is sustainable development? What are the risks of unsustainable development? And then I go very deep into a sort of maybe I scratch on the surface of real estate and construction process from the financing point of view, touch a little bit on the risks of tourism industry, and then end up with an idea of a policy toolbox, since I've been working a lot with the UN processes and with national government policies to support sustainable construction. We all have a fairly fixed idea already of what is sustainable development, and we remember that the report of the then Norwegian Prime Minister Gro Harlem Brundtland was already 1987, but I continue to be fascinated by the title of the report, because I think that already says it everything. Our common future, and that's what it's all about. The Rio conference was in '92, and the Rio Plus 10 in Johannesburg. There will be a Rio again in 2012, because Rio wants to celebrate the 20 years of the conference. In Africa, in Johannesburg, they redefined the title as 3 Ps. And I'm always amused by it, because normally when we say 3 Ps, most people think of public-private partnerships. But I think this is much more challenging. It's people, planet, prosperity. And the South Africans always said, you notice it's prosperity and not profit. So sustainability, as we understand it today, is all the colors of the rainbow, not light green only, as some wish it was. It would be so much more easy if it was only light green. I like this illustration by Niels Larsen, who has put into boxes what the issues are, that mostly actually when people talk about sustainable construction, they in fact only talk about these core issues of energy and resource consumption and environmental loadings. Some people have a little bit of a bigger understanding or broader understanding of green building. But in fact, what we're talking about is sustainable building, where the core issues are just a small part of it, of the whole package. And in fact, what we are talking today is in a way the foundation of it all. We're looking at the social, economic, cultural, and perceptual aspects, particularly the cultural and economic and social ones. But they all are intertwined, and that's the challenge, that you can't separate them. And just to finalize the introduction to the concept, I quote a definition that actually is based on an ISO definition. What is sustainable construction? It's responsible supply, operation and maintenance of buildings that meet the needs of their owners and users over their lifespan, with minimal unfavorable environmental impacts, whilst encouraging economic, social, and cultural progress. I think of all the definitions, this seems to capture the essence best. Now, if I want to turn your mind in looking at the topic from the risk perspective, what would be the risks of unsustainable development? It would be polluted waters. It would be health hazards, no more fish, and all the losses to biodiversity that we heard about in the morning. The risks of this contemporary, always new construction, lot of wasted energy, lot of expensive materials wasted, and lot of these developments that are based on the private car only. I'm sure that for some people this continues to mean progress and good real estate investment, but we know that it's not the case anymore. Because that also is linked with a devastatingly destructive land use pattern where you can build anywhere you want if it's possible, and then you rely on this incredible infrastructure that creates more traffic instead of making traffic more fluent, as the people claim who want these projects built. Some people, I'm sure some developers would like to present this as an example, maybe just this building as a wonderful green building, but if this is the urban reality, of course, there's no way that this could be sustainable construction. And this is not a Photoshop, this is a real picture, but from another continent. And then I'm sure there were also a lot of people who thought that the housing problem can be solved by just building a lot of new housing as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible. But we all are aware today that you create more social problems and more environmental problems by solutions like this. And then there are friends who at some point of so-called urban development, they realize, oops, there's one more building, one old building left, let's save that. And that's the sort of the big historical monuments. I'm sure you've seen this happen all around the world. And then then the picture is normally taken smaller, with a smaller focus, so that you don't see what's surrounding it. And that's then cherished as big cultural heritage protection. But actually, globally, not only in each of our countries, but globally, the biggest challenge is how to maintain our existing buildings, which are the 99% of all our built environment, because only a fraction is added of new construction. How to refurbish and renovate the existing buildings so that they are both good places for people to live and work, and also that they don't waste energy and other natural resources. Because 40% of all energy is consumed in buildings and construction. This is a global estimated figure. And that translates into 30% of all carbon dioxide emissions. Now, the construction material industry has been very happy in promoting this graph, which as such is true, that of the total energy consumption, only about 10 to 20% during the life cycle of a building goes into the materials and construction. And that majority, 80 to 90% of the energy, is consumed during the life and use and operation and maintenance of the building. This seems to be very much the same regardless of where you are in which part of the world. But now, of course, because we want to reduce the energy consumption of the existing buildings, what actually happens is that the share of the material that is in the buildings already becomes more and more important in the share of in the total picture of energy consumption. And this, for me, is one of the many arguments for why we have to preserve the existing buildings. It's not, like I mentioned, that many people want to sort of say that, oh, that's only a small part, but in fact it's a huge part of resource use and energy use, the materials that we have in the existing buildings already now, and that should not be wasted. This is a graph from the fourth assessment report of the United Nations, now I lost the name of it, but the International Panel on Climate Change, thank you, IPCC. They are the guys who got the Nobel Prize with Al Gore, with Mr. Pachauri in the head. And this was sort of a revelation for the construction industry, because the point in this graph is that they compare different sectors of society and industry and production. And they ask the question, where is the reduction potential the cheapest to implement? And where is the potential in volumes? Where is it the biggest? And it's obvious that it's the buildings sector. And again, this is true for all over the world, more or less. So it's not like it would be very different in developing or industrialized countries. And this is the picture that anybody who is talking about climate change and how to combat climate change and how to reduce emissions, they will all refer to this picture. And the Hungarian professor Diana Urge-Forzac put it in other words. She said that from today, each new building constructed in an energy-wasting manner, or each building retrofitted to a suboptimal level, will lock us into a high climate footprint future. And that's a very serious message that, first of all, we have to retrofit the buildings so that they save energy instead of wasting energy. And we have to do it in as efficient a way as we know now. Because the next renovation is going to be done in 30 years, or 20 years, or 30 or 40 years. And that's too long to wait. During those years we would be locked in the high climate footprint built environment. Now, another completely different perspective, looking from the financing point of view of real estate and construction process. This is an illustration of the traditional construction process where you start from feasibility study and design, and then you plan what happens on the site, then you procure, you buy the different systems and construction, you build the building, and then the operation starts. Now, if you think of an